Hello, I'm Gleb Arzakov, father of a special child, entrepreneur, director of the Window to Hope Charitable Foundation, a friend of the Association for Assisting Patients with Rett Syndrome. I found this quote of one of the parents from Great Britain on the internet and would like to share it with you. I would like to discuss the issue of children moving into adulthood. It is the responsibility of every parent to prepare their child for moving into adulthood. Parents of children with Rett syndrome face many problems, and when a child with Rett syndrome grows up, there are many problems that parents could not even imagine that they would face. These are difficulties, always. The problems that these difficult life situations entail include the delayed diagnosis, the lack of adequate treatment, the absence of rehabilitation procedures throughout life, lack of access to school and communication. All this, of course, complicates the ordinary life of such a family and a child on his way to adulthood. But such kids remain all-time kids for their parents, even when they grow up. The question arises when elderly parents pass away, what will happen to their children? And this problem remains relevant everywhere in the world. For a very long time in Russia, the problems of disabled children and their families, as well as their growing up, were exclusively related to parents. But in the last 5 to 10 years, the situation has changed. In Russia, houses of accompanied residents began to appear. In addition, projects such as Peredichka, respite, and long-term care systems are being developed. Our project shows the practices that are being implemented in St. Petersburg, Porkhov, and Pskov. In addition, there are stories from France and Finland. The Window to Hope Foundation has been operating since 1998. At some point, we realized that not only children with developmental disabilities, but their parents need psychological help and simply human support. This is akin to professional burnout, when a person, even loving his job, doing work from day to day, loses motivation and interest in work, and the work begins to fade. Our foundation has delivered 2 projects, the Right to Respite and the Special Child and Special Parent. There was a respite project when mothers were given rest and for children. We had 3 directions of work. So, to very difficult children remaining at home, nurses came to them. Then the children, who are adults, they were engaged in the Vosojdenye Center with tutors while mothers went for a break. And children from aged 14 to 18 who stayed at Solnichny Rehabilitation Center. Of course, the project went very well. Of course, I would very much like this project to continue. The city of Porkhov, non-governmental nonprofit organization, Rostock. Since 2000, we have been developing assisted living and employment for children. Today, it is essentially a district service that helps leavers of the orphanage for children with mental disabilities, families and children with disabilities who live in the Porkhov district. This department is the basic training department with the basic level for all those who came to the workshops for either production practice or prepares for work activities. A non-production department is a unit for either vocational training, career guidance, or daytime work and care. The department is focused on people who have partially or completely lost their self-service skills and abilities. Officially, the concept of assisted living became possible in Russia in December 2017, when the Ministry of Labor approved the relevant documents. Still, for Russians today, the expression assisted living for people suffering with Rett syndrome and other rare diseases and mental problems is still unfamiliar and incomprehensive. Out of 39 assisted living projects announced in 2019 by the Ministry of Labor and Social Protection, according to representatives of NGOs and public associations, a little more than 10 are actually working. For example, the Center of Curative Pedagogy of the Pskov region, the Orthodox parish in the village of Rezdolya in the Leningrad region, the Lewis Quarter in Penza, the Baikal Istok in the Irkutsk region. There are assisted living apartments at the public organization of parents Svet of the Vladimir region. Here, adult people with disabilities have the opportunity to live at home as well as socialize and learn minimal self-care in home-like conditions. In the city of Porkhov, we have our social center. It employs 3 psychologists, 4 social educators, an accountant, and a public relations specialist. Psychologists and social work specialists work out of office as well. They have a lot of field work. It's summer now, and they are all outside. The work is built around communication with the guys, and communication can take place out of the office. Often it happens on the premises of our patient, or they solve some real-life issues locally, like going to the store or to Sberbank to pay utility bills. It includes those who live with constant assistance in apartments and houses of group residence. There we have about 4 to 5 people together, and there are also those who live in separate apartments, those that are independent and autonomous enough to spend the night alone. Today, I really like my job. The motivation that drives me in my work. I don't know what to call this motivation. I wake up in the morning, go to work with pleasure, communicate with children with disabilities and with colleagues, all with pleasure. It's interesting for me.
Если есть мамочки, которые готовы прийти и попросить
There are
помощи,
mothers who
мы
come
готовы
and
им
ask for
оказать,
help.
хотя, конечно,
We are
может
willing
быть,
to
ресурсов
provide
у
it
нас
to
не
them.
настолько
Although
достаточно,
sometimes we may
но
not have enough resources,
помощь, которая им нужна тут и сейчас, мы готовы им оказать. И это
but the
радует.
help that they
Потому
need
что на
here
самом
and
деле ты
now,
видишь, какие
we are always
положительные
there for
моменты в
them.
своей
It
работе,
pleases because
видишь
you
результаты
really
своей
see some
работы,
positive aspects in your work.
и они просто
You see the results of
поднимают
your
тебя
work,
на
and they
дальнейшую
motivate you to
работу.
work further. Someone prepares breakfast. Someone prepares lunch for the guys that go to workshops. Someone cleans up everything after everyone. And then the guys go to work. In the evening, they arrive. Preparations for dinner begin. The lunch they take with them. And what is your part in this? Well, my participation is to watch, to control that they turn off the stove on time, when the soup was just warmed, make sure that they turned it off, that they would spread the butter on a loaf. We don't cook for them. I look what they wear, make sure that they have taken everything they might need, that they are washed, dressed cleanly, that the socks are not torn. If, let's say, some kind of help is needed, they ask. Naturally, we help. Do they obey you? They do. We generally have very good personalities here.
В 2015 году на базе нашего центра был проведен круглый стол.
In 2015, on the basis of our center, a round table was held with the participation of the fund Window to Hope and Rett Syndrome
Мы
Association.
хорошо познакомились с опытом работы этого центра, с опытом организации социального сопровождения.
There, we got very well acquainted with the experience of this center, with the experience of organizing social support. Well, probably awareness has allowed us to become more competent in this regard in terms of how to promote some ideas in this direction. That is why our center was chosen as a base for the Right to Respite project, because there are resources, there is a team. We did not have one component that was necessary for this project, accompanying specialist, that was organized as part of the financing of this project, and we then hired them. I will call them children despite that they are over 18. But for us, they are children, of course. Children with various serious disabilities, primarily intellectual, communicative, which require accompaniment.
С различными серьезными нарушениями, прежде всего интеллектуальными, коммуникативными.
And the parents of these children need to have a little time off because they take care of their child for 24/7. A child that needs them hourly, every second, and this is a very difficult job.
Потому что 24 часа заботиться о своем ребенке, который нуждается в
Within our center, all premises are movement safe. If you come to the room and dressed as an adult, it already changes your self-perception, whatever the intellectual problems of this child might be. And mom, well, she could really devote this time to herself.
Какими бы ни были интеллектуальные проблемы у этого ребенка. А мамочка, она могла действительно посвятить это время себе.
У нас здесь дома группового проживания, и это очень важно понимать, потому что квартира, в которой
We have group houses here, and this is very important to understand, because the apartment where they live, there are several more people living there in this apartment, and, of course, interactions and communications need to be established.
К новому месту, к новому дому, вернее, даже, наверное, скажем так, мы
You need to teach the guys. They need to get used to a new place, to a new home. Let's put it like that. We consider the adaptation successful at the moment when our ward says, I will go to visit my mother. That means that he has already reoriented himself to the fact that his home is here, and he goes to his mother for a visit.
Никакой очереди мы не создаем и создавать ее не можем, потому что речь идет о постоянном сопровождаемом проживании.
Two houses were launched. Each house takes 19 people, a total of 38 people. We do not create any queue, and we cannot create it because we are talking about permanent assisted living. And we have no moral right to put people in a queue for a place in the house where everyone already lives. And we are all registered at the place of stay in those houses. That is not a temporary thing. This is a serious story for a long time, for life. As long as a person needs to live here, he or she will live here. We have 9 disabled people living in 2 houses. They have guardians. Those without guardians or having such a state of health, when the risk of death is very high, for them we are assisting in finding a guardian so that our guardianship authorities do not remove a person from here if, God forbid, something happens. We still try to find ways out during the life of the guardian so that we are sure that no one will take the person out of here and they will not be forcefully placed anywhere. We take care completely. We also take care of the living arrangements.
На улице дождь, мороз, нас широкой метели заметет. Люли, люли, на широкой метели заметет, на широкой метели заметет. Под метелицей воронок идет. Люли, люли, под метелицей воронок идет.
Если тебе 18 лет, ты должен как бы находиться среди людей.
If you are 18 years old, you should be among people aged 18, 19, 20 years old, like an adult.
Девочкам с синдромом Ретта это такая.
But for a girl with Rett syndrome, this is a difficult task because, in general, they seem like they are very passive in society. But I can tell you that it is incredibly important to them. It is more difficult for an adult because you, as a parent, do not cross this border. For you, a child with special needs always remains a child. You are looking at your daughter. She is already 18, but you don't realize this, and you try to play with her like a little girl, watch cartoons, and so on. When suddenly a child starts to rebel and says, "Mom, I want to watch Channel 1, adult programs." And this threshold of the parent changing his mindset, it happens very hard. If a child begins to live separately, and this is normal, when a child of 18 years old is separated from his parents, and this is a normal thing, then, accordingly, the parents are not ready to separate because this transfer from a child to an adult being has not been made. Julia, Friday. Yeah, good. Spring. Julia, spring. A car. Julia arrives by car? Yes. To the city center. The problem of adult children when providing care. Because when you are little or a mother with a child, this represents a separate category, a mother with a child. But when you still remain a mother with a child, but at the same time the child is over 18 years old according to the passport, then you begin to overcome new obstacles, which are very big challenges for a mother. When a mother is at the stage of making a diagnosis of Rett syndrome, having gone this way once, many mothers psychologically just don't want to undergo this path anew. And why does she need these workshops where it seems that she has nothing to do? She needs them. It is a necessity so that she does not become isolated within the family, so that she can communicate with her peers, so that she is a part of some process, even if she does not work, but she sits next to. She sees what the guys around her are doing, those whom she knows from her childhood, those who came to the workshops together with her. How often do you see Margot each week? 3 times per week, Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday. For how long? 2 hours on Monday, 2 hours on Tuesday, and 2 hours on Thursday, in the evening from 5 to 7 o'clock. And that's when she returns from the center. How do you look after Margot? What are you doing? Tell everything in order. Yes, I pick her up from the bus, bring her home, undress, take off the corset. I take her out of the wheelchair and put her in bed. I take her to the toilet, and then I go to the shower with her. After the shower, I put pajamas on her. At 6 p.m., I start to cook dinner for her. After dinner and medication, until 7 p.m., we visit amenities. Sometimes I put her to bed right away, but I must wait until she finishes eating with gastronomy, and while I brush her teeth before leaving. Does she recognize you? Yes, she knows me well. And when I take a vacation for a week, for 2 weeks, she doesn't see me. But when I return, she starts laughing. Hi, Omo, she's back. To be honest, I think Margot is pretty. Sometimes we laugh together. I'm talking to her, but I don't know if she can understand. I try to talk to her anyway, and she just laughs, and it's nice. We get along well. Does she get tired in the evening? She eats little. Yeah, she eats little. Sometimes she gets very tired. Sometimes she does this, knocks on the table when she wants something. Developed countries have long been finding new forms of residence and services for the disabled. An assistant is assigned to everyone who lives separately from the family. There is a redistribution of funding in favor of supporting a person and his family, which is eventually paid off by the stable families, working parents, paying taxes, and new jobs. It is not only the attitude towards a person that changes. As a result, life expectancy increases, health indicators improve, and the standard of living rises. The resource Invalid.com states that at the beginning of 2018, in Russia, more than 8% of the population are disabled. About 700,000 of them are children. Based on these statistics, existing boarding schools, villages, centers, shelters, social housing, where only a small part of this category of Russian citizens live, look like a drop in the ocean. Moreover, for an independent life, they must have certain skills for work or appropriate physical capabilities. The wards of the Rett Syndrome Patient Association have only 2 options in the long term: an assisted living home or a parental home. My daughter is 25 years old. She is a young, beautiful girl. She was initially at the Center for Early Medico-Social Development, And then, until her 20th birthday, she was in the IME, Institutions for Children and Adolescents with Mental Disorders with Intellectual Disabilities associated with disorders of neuropsychic development with motor and sensory disorders. And as for all other growing children, we need to find an MAS, assisted living home for adults with multiple serious disabilities who cannot independently perform their daily duties, feeding, eating, dressing, etc. She has a good routine. She lives for 1 week in the assisted living house, and the next week she comes home to stay overnight. So for 1 week, she comes every evening to us, and for 1 week, she stays to sleep there. And every weekend she's with us, comes home. There is a big difference between activities in the child care center and adult center. Several bus excursions. They go to the market, then they stop for coffee. That's not a lot. Good day. My name is Jorma Sivajärvi. I am the chairman of the parent association of this house, Villa Huvi. Welcome. Here we are in the hall of our house. The organization of such services, including real estate, is a legal obligation of the Commune of Finland. Residents pay rent for housing and services. They buy it from a company that hires staff and arranges all services that are needed for these tenants. Our parent association took the initiative to build this house, this building, and we lobbied for funding. We also bought some furniture, bought the interior, including these birds, all the decorations. The stove was presented to us by a Finnish company. This is the role of the parent association, organizing all this. Let's say we were the driving force of this project.
Это локомотив проекта. Это у нас так называемая синяя гостиная.
This is the so-called blue living room,
Поскольку квартира синяя.
because the apartments have blue doors.
Другое крыло это желтое.
The other wing is yellow with yellow doors.
Гостиная, то есть здесь проводят время, смотрят телевизор.
They spend time here, watch TV.
Каждый квадратный метр нам важен.
But since every square meter is important to us, here is some therapy for people who are sitting in a wheelchair. It is very important that movements are different. Here is a girl, and her legs are worked by equipment. She also does physiotherapy every day. For this, we have a massage table and a device on this chair. This is also to revitalize, as they say, a non-moving body, because it is very important when people are sitting in a wheelchair to get as much stimulus as possible. We are in Katarina's apartment. The responsible nanny named Suvi is working with her. Suvi controls all the actions except where we, as parents, participate in this work. We often visit her apartment. Her home is here. This means that each tenant has a responsible nanny, and she must know about the affairs of her tenant. Thus, we hope that all multifaceted affairs and activities, hobbies, and so on are under good control.
так сказать, хобби и так далее находятся в хорошем контроле. Стационарная мебель относится к
Stationary furniture in an apartment. This is a kitchen and toilet shower, a small closet around the corner, and a bedroom.
вот маленькая кладовка за углом.
Here is Katerina's bedroom with movable doors, which you can close. Make a separate room where she sleeps.
Вот здесь, в принципе, можно закрыть и делать отдельную комнату. Здесь Катарина спит. Вот, и кроме того, здесь ее, как говорится, рабочий стол.
And besides, here is her table, musical equipment, and the contact screen. She can play computer games using the screen.
В каждой квартире две двери, значит,
Each apartment has two doors.
террасы, значит, это для индивидуальных.
An entrance door with a terrace for individual guests to ensure privacy.
И здесь для обеспечения приватности.
The second door leads to the common room, from where nannies come, or when you need access to these premises.
Туда, когда нужен доступ, так сказать, в те помещения. Туалет-душ.
Toilet, shower.
Вот эта комната довольно большая.
This room is quite large because many have devices and some use a wheelchair.
Инвалидную коляску. Для этого здесь у Катарины стиральная своя
Here,
машина.
Katerina has her own washing machine and a chair so that she can take a shower.
Чтобы она могла
This room is a must-have for everyone.
Вот. Вот это, так сказать, очень необходимое помещение, необходимая комната для каждого. Коммуникация очень важная часть.
Communication is a very important part for residents, for people who do not speak.
И здесь именно идет речь об
We are talking about alternative types of communication. There are different ways, but this is a different story.
история. Но у Катарины здесь постоянная.
However, Katrina has a computer here in constant use, which is controlled by her eyes.
Глазами. Практически чуть ли не каждый день
Practically,
речевой
almost every day, the speech interpretation is like this.
такой, значит, она является переводчиком.
The nanny serves as a translator between her and the community, and thus, she makes it possible to translate something that Katrina cannot say.
Возможным вот переводчица то, что Катарина не может говорить, выступать.
This is how they work together with assistants, go on walks, excursions, and to theaters.
Делают прогулки, экскурсии, театры. Теперь Катарина выбирает.
Now
любимую
Katrina
музыку.
chooses her favorite
Я ей
music.
дам. Это уже один вид, тоже один способ коммуникации.
This is also one way of
Какую
communication.
музыку хочешь?
What kind of music do you want?
Minkä laulu, minkä musiikin haluat? Näytä täältä. Näytä täältä. Minkä haluat? Kalak. Okei. Otetaan se.
Terapeutti tulee, niin kannattaa ottaa noin hanskat pois.
She liked it right away.
Это желтая гостиная.
This is the yellow living room.
В этой комнате музыкальные терапии проходят.
Once a week, music therapy and occupational therapy are held here.
Раз в неделю здесь очередуют музыкальная терапия.
There are musical instruments here, a number of different rhythmic ones that our parent association bought. Here we have a whole theater, many, many things.
Ритмических разных, вот наша родительская ассоциация.
Here are various devices. For example, here people can stand because it is imperative that they are standing.
В группах, так сказать, использовать. И здесь у нас целый файл. Театр.
A person who sits all the time must stand at a certain time of the day.
Там вы видите в шкафу. Вот это наш шкаф. И здесь разные приспособления. Здесь, например, люди стоят. Обязательно, чтобы стояли. Стояли, так сказать, человек, который сидит, должен стоять определенное время дня. Идем в сауну. Здесь раздевалка.
Physically, a person will not be able to develop fully,
Выход на террасу.
will not be able to run or jump, but we can develop personality, intellect, communication, and thinking processes. If you practice, then all this can be done.
Все широко, все сделано для инвалидной коляски.
Let's go to the sauna.
Крутиться, вертеться.
Here is the dressing room. In the summer, there is access to the terrace. The shower room has the bubble bath. Everything is wide. It is made for a wheelchair so that you can turn around here.
Сауна у нас
And here is a chair, or rather a bed for washing, for those who need to wash while lying down. It is clear that such a device requires a lot of space. We have a sauna with a low shelf so that it is easy to climb up for those who wish. There are places for wheelchairs here. They sit here. Well, enough space for two people who wish to take a sauna while sitting in a wheelchair. And here is a special sauna heater. As you can see, it is made of a special stone of a soft grade. And the stone comes down to the bottom so that the heat spreads evenly and at a low level within this room. Here we have a steam room. Of course, we throw water on it, and gradually the water flows down and gives soft steam.
Входим в пустую квартиру.
We enter an empty apartment. By chance, it is empty.
Такой она выглядит, когда нет мебели.
This is how it looks when there is no furniture. Area is around 40 to 42 square meters. You can clearly see the forest and nature.
Выбрали кафельки, которые здесь цвет.
Residents have chosen the tiles themselves, the color and how they are located.
Стационарная мебель относится к квартире.
Fixed furniture related to the apartment is pre-installed.
Специального.
The rest is all by yourself. A specially designed bed for lifting and tilting on both sides.
Небольшая кладовка здесь.
A small storage room is now empty. Well, you can look.
Последнее время я, наверное,
Recently, I have learned to look at my Vera not through the prism of illness, but simply perceive her as a girl. Sometimes it annoys me or even outrages me when other people, not doctors, people absolutely not related to medicine, look at Vera through the prism of illness. I think this is wrong. It enables us to live life being as full as possible. And I may even say that some do not live the way we do. We have different values in life. Thanks to her, thanks to this disease. Yes, it was hard. It was hard to accept that nothing will change. If there is cerebral palsy, you can still correct something here and there. But here, you already know definitely all the stages of development. You know that you have a certain period of time. For example, it can develop quickly, or maybe will go for years, like 20 years or something like that. I think the role of a dad of a disabled child is the same as the role of the dad of an ordinary child. There is no reason to divide it. Historically, the Central Square has witnessed many events, forerunners of important changes in the life of society. Previously, such issues were resolved in the Assembly of the Nobles, and now at the House of Government. It is here that all the proposals, hopes, and aspirations of people come. The problem of providing good living for all those who need it is very important, and it is solvable. Parents of patients with serious illnesses should become the initiators and drivers of the projects. Each parent is obliged to ensure the freedom and protection of their child, especially those who cannot stand up for themselves. Just remember, you are big, you are strong and capable. The child will again have the opportunity for self-realization. Will have a simple human right to just live.